Good morning. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Hudson. My name is Marilyn Orr, President of the club, and we are thrilled to have you join us today. This meeting broadcast is available on HCTV, as well as our Rotary of Hudson YouTube channel and Facebook. Our club meets weekly using this digital platform, Zoom. When we meet in person, it's at Laurel Lake Retirement Community for breakfast. We hope to get back to that soon. We meet most Wednesday mornings from 7:15 to 8:30 a.m. So come out to join us for a meeting. We would love to have you as a guest. To learn more about Rotary, our club, and the impact we are having on our local community and the world, please visit our website, rotaryhudson.org. So enjoy this meeting today and help us share the message that Rotary opens doors of opportunity.
We're ready.
Good morning, Rotarians and guests. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Hudson. I'm Ron Strobel, the Sergeant at Arms, and our invocation this morning is by Bill Libby.
Bill, make sure you're unmuted.
Okay. Pray with me, please. Creator God, for those of us grounded in the Abrahamic tradition, Christian, Jewish, Muslim, there is an understanding that there is a covenant with us and the Creator of all things. An extension of this special covenant is the social contract that binds us to our government by accepting the U.S. Constitution. The very special document appeals to all mankind that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among them is liberty, life, and the pursuit of happiness. Rotary as a service club seeks to carry out these goals, that we set aside our personal gains to serve the less fortunate. What better place to heal a torn country than living up to the ideals of the covenant of our Creator, honoring the social contract stated in the Constitution, and acting with the goals of being Rotarians in a community of Hudson and greater Akron area. COVID-19 provide us with an opportunity to reconsider how we go further to serve in the service of others. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Bill. And to lead us in the pledge and the four-way test this morning, Chris Foster.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And the four-way test: is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. And now our president, Marilyn Orr.
Good morning, Rotarians. The Hudson Rotary Foundation will be having its bi-monthly board meeting immediately following this meeting. All club members are invited to attend. We have good news to report. Ben Rexroth, our treasurer, is home as of Monday and recuperating well under Sandy's loving care. Notes of encouragement and support should be addressed to Ben at their home on Stone Road. Past President Tom Page's memorial service that was originally scheduled for this Saturday, November 21st, has been canceled and is to be rescheduled. Please keep Dottie in your prayers. This is a most difficult time for their family. I'm sad to report that given the increase in the risk from the coronavirus, we have decided not to sponsor Santa on the Green this year. It just did not seem prudent, but we'll be back next year. And remember, we are still collecting survey results from all club members. Jay Yard, would you like to mention something to the club, please?
Yes, please. I've gotten a lot of very good ideas and interesting returns. I see patterns developing, but I need the other half of all of your survey returns. But it occurred to me that some of you might not be able to print out the questionnaire. If that's the case, and you want to fill it out by hand and mail it back to me, please call me at 412-523-2724. And I will be glad to send you a form. And also, as the time goes on, I'm going to call the people I haven't heard from. So there's nowhere to hide. I want your ideas. Thank you very much.
Well, we know that the best way for the Strategic Planning Committee to appropriately do the job that they've been tasked to do is for each and every club member to be honest and to candidly submit their survey. So Jay's going to be looking for you, it sounds like. Also remember that it is during this month that we are conducting our scholarship donation drive in lieu of the fall flower and popcorn sale. And a flyer for that drive was sent via email on your due statement earlier this month. We will conclude the drive at the end of the month, so please be generous in your considerations. And today we have a special visitor today, Marty Bach, and a student from the Hudson High School Service Learning Club are with us. Marty, please unmute and join us.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for having us this morning. Really do appreciate it. So in terms of updates with service learning, one of the things I want to thank you for is Rotary did contribute a grant to us for this year. And as we have every year, it has been extremely needed this year because one of the things that we've been confronted with is we do have students out at sites, right, as normal throughout the community. We've had to become more Hudson City Schools focused just to deal with the protocols regarding COVID. So we've lost a number of our sites. We put them in Hudson City Schools. But as time has gone on and with the rising case counts, we've had some individual students quarantined in their homes, or we've had whole sites that have been lost. We've had 2 this week who said, we just can't take any more volunteers right now. We have to shut down immediately. And that means, 3 students here, 4 students there who can't attend their sites. So what we have had to come up with on a week-by-week basis is something alternative for them to do, either with the 4 teachers here in service learning or even in their own homes if they're quarantined, because a lot of our students are quarantined, or not that they're tested positive, but they were near somebody who was, so out of abundance of caution, they're home for 2 weeks. So to just give you an idea of some of the things that Rotary has sponsored with us, we did a number of tie blankets that we went to Joann's, got some good fleece on a good deal, and students were in this room cutting it and tying it together, and they went to low-income retirement homes in Copley, Fairlawn, that we have some contacts there over the years for some other supervisors, and they were so excited to receive them, especially with not getting any contact during the holidays. The other thing that was just done yesterday was from, again, Joann Fabrics. We got these on good deals. So students came in and much better job than me with some paints, and this was just, plain wood, right? And painted this all. And then also made some cards to go along with these. So this could also be gifts to seniors in retirement homes, specifically ones they're looking at who don't have family contacting them, who might be very lonely, shut in during this. That they can at least get something hang and somebody's thinking about them. So thank you for that. To give you another example, with Veterans Day, we looked for a organization called Operation Gratitude, specifically for our men and women in the armed forces. And something I wasn't aware of is what they really like is this. It's called a paracord. Essentially, you get these lengths of like 500 feet, and it's parachute cord. It's very high strength. And what the students do is, so they cut it up, and then they weave it. Right, it's a little bit of fine motor skills to weave this thing together, and then you essentially have a bracelet. Okay, right. And what this can do, apparently, and again, someone who has never been in the armed forces, the things I just don't think of. So soldiers, sailors, whatever, they have this on their wrists, and this can be taken off and used in a ton of different uses for survival skills or things in the field. So they had a whole range of things that this has been used, Afghanistan, Iraq, various other places that is necessary, right? Whether it is for tenting, whether it's for things with Humvees, attaching things, binding wounds, tourniquets, things like that. So students are doing this, and we get a number of them. We're going to ship them off to Operation Gratitude, and they'll distribute them out to our armed forces. So thank you, because you paid for the cord. Cord's, fairly expensive, but then our students provide the power to put it all together, the labor to weave it and all that, which takes some time. So that just gives you some examples of what we've been doing. Also with your help, we did a lot of cleanup around various trails in Cuyahoga Valley National Park, the metro parks, that we went out and we picked up trash on some of the good weather days we had. So we're trying to take support that Rotary has given us and giving back to the greater community that way. So thank you so much. So you don't have to hear from me anymore. I'm going to turn it over to the student we have joining us today. This is Laurel. Laurel's been in my class for 2 years. I had her in AP US History, and she's now in service learning. So I'm going to turn it over to Laurel so she can talk about her site and what she's been doing.
Yes, hello. I'm Laurel Seberg. I am helping out Miss Colleen in a 6th grade English class at the Hudson Middle School. Basically on a day-to-day basis, Miss Colleen has projects she wants me to do, whether it's copying or grading students' papers. I think one interesting story I had there was Miss Colleen was out of town one day, and I was helping out the substitute teacher. And basically she wasn't really aware of how to run a class because this was her first time substituting. So I kind of helped her out run the class, and I just learned that teachers have a hard time controlling class, especially kids who are younger. You can't get them to focus very well. So.
And Laurel, can you share just 2 last things? One is, what are you looking to do in the future? And also, Mr. Field said anything about how you're handling hybrid at the high school and all that, your opinion.
Yeah, so I want to pursue a career in veterinary medicine. So I have not decided on college yet, but next year I'm going to be moving somewhere down south in the warmth and start my undergraduate. And I think it's definitely difficult with the hybrid now that the schedule is constantly changing. Like I have the schedule on my phone and on my iPad, and I'm constantly checking to make sure it's the right day that I go in school or I'm in the right classes.
So everybody, I want to thank you for having us this morning. Speaking of school, in 15 minutes, I start teaching the Antebellum South. So I already have a couple students showing up. So I'm going to be getting prepared for that. And I believe Laurel's to get ready for her first period as well. But I can tell you from a teacher side, regardless of the schedule changing or hybrid, myself as a teacher, I am just so happy to actually be in the building and actually seeing students. It really is wonderful. My kids have been remote until just last week, and they were so excited to go back, see their friends, and actually be face to face. So regardless of any pitfalls with schedules changing or that, it's wonderful when I have students walking in right now. It's good to see them.
How awesome is that? It's so wonderful to see how responsible our students are becoming. This is often not something that shows up until sophomore year. So we're really preparing them well for the next steps in their lives. Well, this morning is a really special time. We'll bid you adieu, Marty, and we'll move on with the rest of our meeting. Enjoy your day. Today, we're going to be introducing and speaking with 3 of our newest members. So John Adams, please unmute yourself and let's get started with this program. We're really interested in learning more about these people.
Thank you, Marilyn. Good morning, Rotarians. I'm excited to get to have a conversation with 3 of our newest Rotarians and have other members get to know them as people. I've emailed all of them individually prior to our conversation with kind of a guide of what we're going to be doing today. And so in 10 minutes, and I'm going to set my watch here to make sure we stay on time. So first up, I'm going to have Chris Foster do our first interview this morning. And by means of introduction, I could probably fill the entire 10 minutes. Chris is a very fascinating human being. Gosh, he's got so many different areas of interest. He's got chickens. He is Boy Scouts. That's how I got to know him as our kids were growing up. Certainly a councilman. He's a longtime resident of Hudson, and now serving us, making Hudson the town that we all love even better. And so, as I was looking over his bio to introduce him this morning, there's just so much there it could fill the entire 10 minutes. So let's start. Chris, how are you this morning?
Well, how you doing, John?
We're good. I am reaching you all from Florida this morning, and so I understand there's been a little bit of snow up there already this week.
My front yard's still white.
Is that right? And how about the storm? Were you affected much by the storm that went through the other day?
Not really. I mean, we had to go out and make sure the chickens were still in the yard. We thought they may have been blown away.
That is amazing. So what got you into that?
Into the chickens?
Yeah.
Yeah, long story. I'll try and make it a little short. So when my wife and I still lived on Atterbury, we lived in one of the old Lake Forest homes. It was built in 1927 on the corner of Atterbury and Oxford. It's a stone Tudor down there. We bought this property up here on Walters Road because my wife and I are beekeepers. We're beekeepers because my youngest son was interested in it when he was about 11 or 12 years old, and we're not allowed to put beehives down on Atterbury. And so we bought this property. It has agricultural use rights and is a former farm, and kept our bees here for years and years until eventually we kind of rebuilt the house that was here and decided to move up. I do a lot in the greenhouse industry. I'm the largest publisher in the horticultural markets in the US, greenhouse, nursery, garden center, lawn care, golf, cannabis, hemp. We're in all these kind of green industries. And so I have a greenhouse on the property. So we started growing a lot of the material that we eat. I built all the hydroponic systems in the greenhouse myself. I can grow about 250-ish plants simultaneously year round, on top of lemons, limes, clementines, all sorts of stuff. We grow in soil as well. And eventually I said, why the heck don't we have our own chickens? And so my oldest son built a chicken coop, and we got 16 chickens, of which we have 15 left. One was a rooster.
One was a rooster.
Who is now in the freezer.
Well, to many interests, I also noticed that you make your own beer.
I do. So, along with having an abundance of honey, my wife and I, our bees produce about 1,000 pounds of honey a year. So when you have an abundance of honey, you start making honey wine or mead. So I started doing that a long time ago. And I'm a very patient person. So it takes 5 to 7 years to make a good mead. You age it out for about that long. So I make about 10 to 15 gallons a year. And I've got I've about 45 carboys in my basement that are years old that I haven't even bottled yet. And after I did that, I had never made beer. And so we decided to grow several hop varieties up the side of the barn. So the beer that we produce are made from our own hops as well.
So, you know what, you're fascinating to me. You really are, in all of your varied interests and skills. You know, I also know on top of that, scouting is near and dear to you as a person. Can you share why that is?
You know, it's growing up. I guess I grew up in Troop 321, which was actually the Rotary Boy Scout sponsored troop down in the log cabin. And most of my friends were in it. I'm not sure why it was important to me as a kid, other than the fact that, you know, we all have family backgrounds, right? So my parents were divorced from each other twice. And so, you know, the family was not quite as stable as most people would have preferred growing up. And since I lived in Hudson most of my life, most of my friends belong to 321 as well. And so your friends kind of become your family, right? And we spent a lot of time out, as much time as possible, out camping and scouting. And it just kind of became, you know, what you did as a kid. I mean, we didn't have Xboxes. You spent most of your time as a kid outdoors. And, you know, as I had my own kids, I remembered how much I enjoyed scouting growing up, and learning how to operate in the wild, you know, be able to take care of yourself is a skill that is best learned young, and a passion that you want to instill in your kids when they're young, so that long term they actually want to be outdoors. So my sons went into scouting very, very quickly at a young age. And you know, I've always participated in all of the high adventure campouts. I'm wilderness survival certified. I've done the Philmonts, you know, 110 miles over 12 days with backpacks at, you know, 9,000 feet plus. So good times, and something I'd recommend to any kid.
Chris, as I've studied your company, there's a couple things that stand out to me. One of which is almost half of your executive leadership is female, and you know, with the movement going on, that's impressive to me. Really impressive. I want to ask this question sensitively. Was that an objective, or did it just kind of work out that way?
So I'll try and avoid any landmines in terms of, you know, how I position this. I'm not, you know, I think everybody matters. Obviously, there are certain groups in society who have more problems today than other groups in society. And so that's why we point out the fact that they all matter as individuals, and you have to recognize that. Women in the workplace have had, you know, years of struggle. I'd like to say it was done intentionally, but the fact is it was done rather unintentionally. We hire talent, we promote talent. You know, my goal has always been to produce managers who are better at managing their department than I would be at managing their department. And those women were just the best people for the job, and so they got it.
Got it. I have a question. Can you share the name of your company and where you're located?
Yeah, it's GIE Media. It stands for Group Interest Enterprise Media. We're located in Valley View on Canal Road. So if you head up Canal and you pass the Quaker Steak and Lube and the AMC, if you know where Lock Keepers is,
yeah,
go about another 2 blocks. So we're south of the 480 bridge, but just north of the Quaker Steak and Lube.
Now, the other thing about your company is you absolutely encourage education. In fact, I heard you say that you will reimburse 100% or pay for 100% of educational cost. Do you want to share a little bit about that philosophy?
Yeah, so we do. There's two different programs. One is if you're a current employee of GI Media, we will pay for 100% of ongoing education. It doesn't matter whether it's a certification or a master's degree, we just pay for it. So that's just a standard benefit. We believe in ongoing education. As far as new employees go, when we hire college students who come with a substantial amount of debt, we match their debt repayment programs. So if you come in my company and you owe $500 a month towards your college loan, we will give you an additional $500 a month until that debt has been retired so that we can retire it more quickly. And, we also have some really unusual benefits like our sabbatical program. Every year you work for my company, you earn 2 weeks of paid sabbatical. It's paid leave of absence. You're entitled to take that every 5 years. It needs to be taken as a lump. So it's about 2.5 to 3 months off every 5 years, fully paid. Your job is waiting for you when you come back. What a lot of people do with that, some women extend their maternity leave. We have 3 months of paid maternity leave as well, but they'll extend it out. I think the head of my graphic design department took a year off, full pay, when she had her first child. We had an editor who, I know I mentioned we do quite a bit with the May-Dugan Multi-Service Center in Cleveland. An editor of mine had worked for the company for 26 years. And so he had 52 weeks of paid sabbatical. So he spent a year volunteering at the May-Dugan Multi-Service Center, teaching, doing adult education as a volunteer because we paid him.
That's amazing. So we're kind of wrapping up on our time. And so I'm going to kind of do rapid fire a couple questions here. You're interested in serving in council. Can you share with us, I mean, you've got a successful business, you've got a great family, you've got multiple levels of interest in things. Oh, and by the way, you are also at the table for city council. Where did that desire come from? What do you enjoy doing in that space?
It's, I was born in Sandy Hook, Connecticut. I'm not sure a lot of people know that. And my house was directly adjacent to the elementary school, as a matter of fact. So, that entire experience was very disturbing, but on lots of levels, because we still have lots of family out there. But my parents moved here when I was young, and they moved to Elmcrest near east side of Hudson downtown when I was a kid. We built the second house in Layton Estates. I grew up kind of in Glastonbury, and my wife and I, we bought our first home as a married couple on Hudson Drive. We bought one of the homes in Tow Bridge. We were down in Atterbury for years. So, city council is just the fact that I've lived here my whole life and wanted to give back. There were some things going on I disagreed with within the community, and you have to either step up or shut up, right? It's really one or the other. And I decided to step up and really have thoroughly enjoyed it. It's funny for me because my nature is that of an introvert. I enjoy spending time alone. That's how I recharge my battery. It doesn't mean that I don't like working with people. I do love to go to trade shows. I love sitting down and getting to know people one-on-one. But I have to intentionally push myself to do that. And so going out and getting elected for an introvert is, that was a challenge.
So let me ask you as we wrap up, we've gotten to know you pretty well today in a lot of different ways. I want to ask you about Chris Foster, the family man. So tell us a bit about your family.
So married 30 years. I met my wife in college in Germany. Her family they're first gen, well, she's first gen American. Her parents are German immigrants. She went back to Heidelberg University to be close to family for some time. And I was a linguistics major who attended Heidelberg for my entire university experience. We got married when we were 22. So here at 52, 30 years plus, We have a 26-year-old daughter who was supposed to have gotten married this year, this September. She postponed it to next September. She is an RD. She's a registered dietitian with a master's in science, living in Cincinnati with her fiance. Specializes in endangered pollinators. No shock there, given the fact that we're beekeepers. And our youngest turned 19 2 days ago. He is in the fishery and aquatic management program at Hocking College as a freshman.
It's pretty interesting. Not only, I mean, your pursuits, but then to see your children and their pursuits, how connected they all are. So, Chris, I've known you for a long time. Said I respected you, I've admired you. So to be able to get some time with you and have a conversation and get fellow Rotarians to get to know who you are as a man, it's been my pleasure to spend some time with you here this morning.
Thanks a lot, John. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Okay, we are going to go into our next new Rotarian, or onto our next Rotarian, Pete Spacagna, if I pronounce that correctly. Why don't I start? That is my first question. Did I pronounce that correctly, Pete?
You did a very, very good job. Yeah, that's there's actually 4 correct ways to say it. I learned at a young age. That's one of them. So and that's the one I've adopted over the years, because nobody can really say my name the correct way from the Italian side of things, unless you are Italian, of course.
Well, pretty nice office digs you have there. Good looking office, beautiful automobile behind you. It's a nice environment you work in there.
Yeah, it's the car business is fun. No 2 days are ever the same. There's a lot of variety, a lot of moving parts. So we've got about 150 employees between the 2 dealerships. So I keep myself plenty busy with all the various things that are going on here. So, but it is Lexus, so it's a great dealership, and we enjoy working here. So.
And how long have you been with the Lexus brand?
Just under 6 years.
Okay. But have you been in the auto industry a long time and now Lexus, or is that new to you as well?
Yeah, since 1994, so 26 years plus. Only 3 companies, and one of them was bought out by a publicly owned company, so that was kind of an inherent thing. But yeah, it's been my whole career from the beginning, and since I was 22.
Pete, how long is it going to be until we are all driving electric cars?
Yeah, it's funny you said that. So Tuesday of this week, yesterday, there was a call with we normally have a national dealer meeting every year where we meet as a group, and we get to see new product and what's going on. Electric vehicles is obviously a very hot topic. Tesla is making a lot of news. They've been moving the needle in our market and throughout the country. Lexus announced they're going to have a totally electric drivetrain within the next 3 years. So, and they're going to offer that on every model they sell as a result. So electric's here to stay. I don't know what it'll look like 5 years from now. Autonomous cars is obviously another thing that's been a big topic. So
I've had a Tesla. In fact, I just turned it in because the lease was up, and I've got another one on order. One of the things, I mean, it's a great car, but it's their charging network that is just throughout the United States seems to be the most developed of other electric car manufacturers. How would that work if I bought an electric Lexus? I guess, would you then have to build your own charging network? Or I know there's these other 4 pay stations I could stop at and charge at. Is that how I would charge a Lexus? It wouldn't be a Lexus network. It'd be one of those networks I'd pay to use.
Yeah, it hasn't really been defined how they're going to make it work from the infrastructure standpoint, but we'll just wait and see. Obviously, that's one of the important topics for an electric buyer. That, along with obviously how long it takes to charge and how many miles you can drive.
Sure.
On a charge. So,
which seems to be expanding. It's like the computer industry. It's smaller, it's faster, it's cheaper, and just as I've studied the electric cars, just the range is growing exponentially in that space. So, well, tell us about that family that's over your right shoulder there.
Yeah, so I've been married 20 years with my wife, Sue. We actually met at a bachelor auction in 1996 at Landerhaven, of all things. It was for the American Cancer Society. So we just celebrated our 20th year anniversary. We were planning on going to Maui, and we settled for Cleveland, Ohio due to the pandemic in July. And we have two boys, Andrew and Joshua. Josh is 15. He attends St. Vincent St. Mary. He's a freshman. They are doing in-school learning right now, but they are probably shifting to e-learning come next week. They're actually starting vacation for Thanksgiving break on Monday instead of Wednesday. And then Andrew attends Seton Catholic School. He's in a hybrid year, if you will. I had a call with Karen Elstock, our principal, over the summer, because both our boys are adopted from Central America. And Andrew, when he came to the US at 9 years old in 2016, the reason I remember this because the Cavs just won the championship, and he came a few days later in 16. And
it was a big year for you guys.
It was a big year, but he couldn't read or write English or speak it at the time. So we had to start him a little bit behind for his grade. And so I said, well, why don't we do a hybrid year? So he's starting 6th grade after Christmas break, and he'll transition to 7th grade in January. So we're kind of excited for him in that respect to kind of get closer to his age group.
So many of us have never adopted a child, let alone two. Can you share with us that? Can you take us on that journey with you a little bit and tell us what that's like?
Yeah, you pretty much have to be pretty left of center to get into the adoption world, especially internationally. And that was never our intention. We did attempt a domestic adoption, but there's a lot of issues with domestics. There's pros and cons to everything, right? It's why you bought a Tesla. There's pros and cons to everything, right? So
correct.
Domestically, we actually attempted a domestic adoption in Columbus, held the baby, but there's one issue with domestic adoptions, and the birth parent has 72 hours after birth to change their mind. And that happened twice for us. So once you experience a couple of adoption miscarriages, right, you're like, all right, what's our other options? Well, you go
rip your heart out.
Yeah, it's not for the faint of heart, but so we went internationally, and the pro with international is by the time you go meet the child is the birth parent has signed off full rights. The con is it's much more painful, dangerous, expensive, time consuming. You're dealing with two countries instead of one, US and the country of origin, right? So there's a lot more red tape and a lot more involved with getting that child and bringing them home. So, but we're pretty blessed to have, they're both good kids. One was 8 months when we got him, Joshua, our oldest, and then Andrew was 9 years old, as I said earlier. But it all worked out. It worked out in the end. Honduras was a tough one, though, the last one with Andrew. I think we were done after that one. So that took a pound to flesh out.
I have a friend who had a child born with Down syndrome. And the thought of this child being alone after they have left this earth was very disturbing to them. And they thought the child needed a friend. So they've adopted internationally 3 other children from an orphanage of Down syndrome children.
That's great.
And his story of how that country treated children with Down syndrome will make you cry. And so just the way that he and his wife went over and had to take up residency in that country for a period of time, extremely expensive, to go through the court system and bring these children home. He's an inspirational human being. He makes me a better man just calling him a friend. But back to you. So what would you like your fellow Rotarians to know about you as the man?
I have a lot of different areas of interest. I do a lot of volunteering. Right now, we've been doing a lot of volunteering at the Akron Canton Food Bank. It's good for our kids. It's a requirement for them to earn their 25 hours of volunteer time. Our dealership gives back to many interests, and one of them is the food bank in Akron and the Parma Heights Food Pantry for our Metro Lexus store. I volunteered as the vice chair on the Seton Athletic Association for a number of years when my son was playing flag football. You know, I'm into learning. I'm always interested in reading about healthy things in your body, that what we put in our body. I believe food is medicine, so I'm always reading about the medicinal properties of food. Specifically, lately, I've been reading about anti-inflammatory things and how all disease basically is the root of inflammation in your body, and things like turmeric and, you know, honey is two things that you can take to obviously reduce inflammation. I have friends that I meet, we're wine junkies. I don't want to call connoisseurs or sommeliers, but we like our Cabernets, so we meet routinely, and not as much lately, but we like to meet and try different wines of the world, if you will. And the latest thing I'm into is espressos and different coffee beans of the world. I have a good friend who's a dentist, and he is a Q6 rated, which is like the highest rating you can have for coffee. And so he's taking me upon a journey of learning, because I was going to buy a new espresso machine for home, and he's like, "Oh no, you're not going to buy that piece of junk." And he's been educating me, so we're going down that rabbit hole right now, which is interesting. And then I love learning about leadership, which I believe you never really, it's like Mount Everest, except you never reach the peak. You just keep getting better when it comes to leadership. One of the people I subscribe to or follow is John Maxwell. You probably have heard of him.
Mm-hmm.
But he talks about, like, for example, the 5 levels of leadership, you know, where one is the position where you feel like people should follow you just because they have to, all the way to the pinnacle level where they follow you because of who you are and what you represent. From a leadership standpoint, I mean, I have, like I said, about 150 employees that report to me in one way, shape, or form. So I always have to keep evolving and getting better and better. It's challenging to lead people, to manage people, to communicate, be a good communicator. So I'm always trying to learn the best ways. And as you know, with these millennials, these Gen Ys, these Gen X's, it's a different way of communicating, right? So a lot of our team members here are are older, but we're infusing it with a lot of younger. We also employ a lot, as Chris was mentioning, over 70% of our sales staff in one of our dealerships is female. And it just turned out that way because they were the right people also. But, you know, females need to be talked a different way in terms of, you know, there's an emotional attachment to everything, versus men are just tell me what I need to do and I'll do it. So you have to learn from sex, from age groups, you know, whatever it is, you have to learn how to communicate. And leadership is constantly evolving, like you said, and I'm fascinated by it because it's a challenge to be a great leader. It really is.
Sure. As we're kind of wrapping up, a few seconds left, real quick, what would you say, like, what's your favorite book? What are you reading right now, maybe? Either one?
Right now, I'm not in a book right now. I've been watching a lot of video, to be honest, with all the webinars. Okay. I probably have three webinars I do a day, or Zoom meetings, if you will. You know, I plan on getting in a new book after the new year. It's really been exhausting, the fact that every day you come to work and you're like doing 3 to 4 different virtual meetings, while at the same time, where you normally, before COVID, you never even had a meeting online. It's just so different how business has evolved and things have changed. But most people I'm talking to, like yourselves on the call, you're working out of home.
That's right.
When the pandemic hit, we didn't stop working at all from work. So we were deemed a necessary, an essential business, if you will. So it's been unique, you know, because there's nothing that's changed in our world with respect to coming to work. Obviously, things internally have changed.
How about business? How's business with Lexus this year, with this crazy year we're having? How are your numbers?
March and April were obviously very difficult. We had to lay off and furlough 31 employees, which was not easy. But I'll be honest, there was some necessary fat. Much like my waistline over the years, there's been some unnecessary fat that needed to be trimmed up. So it was actually a good thing in from the long-term standpoint. May, June were better than expected, albeit less than last year. And then the rest of the year has actually been at or above prior year numbers. It's been extremely, you know, fruitful, if you will. We're selling out of our pipeline. So what that means is we can't keep up with sales demand right now.
Well, I'll tell you, Pete, as we wrap up, I also have a Lexus, and one of the things that I thought was a pretty cool retirement gig, if that word ever enters my vocabulary or my life, is I want to be one of those guys that drives really nice cars around to people and delivers them back. That seems like a pretty cool gig, that you get to drive gorgeous automobiles to people. So that's a nice crew that you have there.
Yeah, all those drivers are greater than 60 in age. So yeah, I don't know if you're quite 60, John, but
No.
I don't think you're there yet. But yeah, maybe something to aspire for.
So, Pete, I've enjoyed our visit this morning. I welcome to the Rotary chapter. You're going to bring a lot of value to the group there. We might even have to get a session with you on teaching the group about wine or something like that. That could be a fun Zoom session. Of course, we'll need to send samples in advance of that Zoom session.
Sure.
So, Pete, enjoy your day. Thank you for visiting with us.
Thanks.
All right. So, last but certainly not least, we have Bill Libby. Bill, are you with us this morning?
Can you hear me?
Oh, Bill, you had my heart rate up for a few seconds there. I didn't hear you, and I want to make sure you're with us. How are you
I'm
this
here.
morning? So you all settled in over there? I understand you're at Laurel Lake?
Yes, it's been quite a journey after living here in town for 43 years and moving, Marie and myself moving over here and unloading the house, which has not yet been sold. So that's been an interesting little gig to come over here in an apartment where I never lived before, always in a home, right? So that's been an interesting thing. The residents over here are extremely friendly. You know, take Mimi, for example. You know, she's one of those folks that you can get to know quickly.
So how is that adjusting? I mean, you have a home and all the room and comfort, creatures of comfort at a home, and then you transition to an apartment. How is that just dealing with the different space?
Well, I mean, you downsize, so that's one of the issues of when you're moving and you've accumulated a lot of stuff over a lifetime. I'm in my 80s, so when I'm thinking about Peter and Chris's statement, I mean, they're like my kids.
Yeah.
And I know what our 6 children will do. 4 of them are out on the West Coast, and 2 of them are here in Ohio. So communicating with our children has been a little bit of an issue in this process. So we get together with them on FaceTime.
80 years old. Now, you've been a Rotarian since 1986 up in Cleveland, I understand.
Yeah, my whole career was in the banking brokerage business, and I started off at Cleveland Trust in the commercial side, on the operational side of the bank, and that at the same time I was putting myself through night law school at Cleveland Marshall, which is now part of Cleveland State University. So that was a real effort. I'm in a second marriage, so my former wife was in medical school at Case Western Reserve. And she dropped out in her 4th year, and we had 4 children. She came out of a family with 2 physicians. Her dad was a abdominal surgeon, and her mother was a GP. So that
her 4th year of med school, and then she dropped out. That was almost the finish line there.
Well, I would say to you, sometimes families do things that are not appropriate in terms of where the children are going to go. This was expectation.
Yeah, sure.
Both her and her sister would be doctors.
Now, Bill, it's my understanding Marie was a teacher in Hudson for a long time. 21
years. So I guess she was, when Chris was talking, she was nodding off over here. I think a lot of the foster family. So, you know, and having been a teacher here in Hudson for all these times, I pick up little nuggets about most of what goes on in town here. So I didn't have to be on city council to know what's going on around town.
So should we ask Marie what Chris was like as a student then? Should we go back to that? So, and we're assuming straight A's for a guy like Chris there. Hi, Marie. Good morning from the Rotary chapter of Hudson. How are you? So
I don't believe I had Chris as a student, but was perchance his father Warren Foster?
I don't know that. I don't know that.
No,
So,
but my mother was Nancy Foster. She was a librarian in the school system for years.
I'm not acquainted with that Foster family.
so Bill, you and Marie are at Hudson Congregational Church there in town. And I'm going to ask you, so what does Rotary mean to you? I mean, you've been a Rotarian for so long.
35 years.
And I really understand it, you know, to both of you, you take the title Rotarian very seriously. What does being a Rotarian mean to you?
Well, first of all, I always thought being raised in the Cleveland area and working in downtown Cleveland, I was in a metropolitan setting. And most of the folks with the Rotary Club when I started in '84, there were 771 members in the club at the Statler Hotel. And that was a big deal.
Yeah.
The club shrunk, and needless to say, as we went through time, I think they're probably close to 60 members right now. And out of that, I was on the youth service committee most of the time. And we did a lot with the Cleveland School District. So I was in a number of the schools in Cleveland and got to know the superintendent and some of the principals at the schools. And we set up a scholarship program.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, that scholarship program goes back probably 30 years. And fortunately, we became connected with College Now of Greater Cleveland, which is the largest scholarship program in the United States. They would do the selection of the students for us, 4 students every year. And we start off at about 1,000 and we got it up to 4,000 per year. And unfortunately, as I was migrating out of the club, they then decided to cut it back. So other projects would get some of the money. They thought I was taking too much of the capital from their foundation, which happens to be over $2 million.
Let me ask you this, as we're kind of, we're looking at time, and there's a couple things I wanted to ask you about, quite personal, if it's all right. Is what is the PFLAG movement?
Whoa. Well, of our 6 children, my oldest one, Susan Libby, now resides, she's lesbian, resides in Sebastopol, California, and she has a business in Santa Rosa with neti pots. Those are what they call those snot pots. So Sue came out to us in probably about the age of 26. And from that point on, good friends of ours here in this community in Cleveland said, why don't you join a national group called Parents, Family, and Friends of Gays and Lesbians. And needless to say, when you're doing this kind of social justice issue, you run up against some real obstacles. And part of the obstacles are the people who are gay, transgender, queer, and they are not held in high respect by the conservative religious community. And for us in the community, they've been around for 25 years, Marie and I are on the board, it's a real challenge to keep your mouth shut, because everybody's got their own belief system, and sometimes it's so firmly ingrained that there's no movement except when you protest. And of course, we've been down to the State House over 10 times to meet with our legislators. And I'll tell you this, only one legislator in 10 years met with us. It was always the aide. Idea of what the challenge is. So it's still going on. And now we got back Black Lives Matter. And that's another issue that we all know prejudice is deeply embedded in our culture. And we got a lot of challenges to go. And I would like to see this club move in the direction of accepting people of color and different religious groups that are really important to diversify this club in this community. So it's a loving, sustaining process.
Let me ask you, I mean, we have just a couple minutes left, Bill. This conversation could be long lasting, I'm sure. You impressed me as a man of faith, very involved in your family and your community, a good man. You impressed me as a good man. And to see your daughter go through that kind of discrimination had to be very hard.
Yep.
Okay. And yet it didn't harden your heart. Okay. I mean, if you see that kind of discrimination, you think that might kind of form your opinion of people and maybe harden your heart a little bit, but I don't get a sense from you that it's hardened your heart at all. How is that possible?
Well, if you know something about P-Flight, we meet monthly. In fact, I'm going to proselytize a little bit. We have a meeting tomorrow at 7 to 8. And if any of you have gay children or relatives and you'd like to join us, just give me an email, wlibby64@aol.com, and I'll put you the link on a Zoom meeting for 7 to 8 o'clock on November the 19th. I don't know how else to say this. It's something that Maria and I have been at for a long time. There's other interests that, needless to say, we have within our family, but I'm just really thinking about things that have happened here in the last 8 months with the pandemic and the political turmoil and the stock market at an all-time high, interest rates where I couldn't, being in the banking industry, I never thought we'd see 10-year interest rates at 0.9.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it blows my mind. And then we've got other things going on with regards to Black Lives Matter. And how do we make ourselves aware of this discrimination that's embedded in us? But only conversation. We don't want to talk about our religious issues, and we don't want to talk about our political issues. And that's sad. When you can't talk about something, you've got a problem.
Bill, it's been, I mean, you have some good comments that certainly are not going to be solved in our last minute here together today. But let me share with you, I watch people a lot, and you are always a smile. You are always laughing, and you just seem like a really good guy that I think you're going to bring a lot to our chapter of the Rotary, and we welcome you. We thank you for joining us this morning and for our conversation that others got to know you better. So with that, I'm going to wrap and say, Bill, thank you for sharing yourself with us this morning.
Thank you.
Madam President, turn it back over to you.
Hasn't this been amazing? Now, when we were meeting in our breakfast meetings, normally we would introduce new members and give them 3 minutes to describe themselves. This has been so much better. I'm really impressed with the quality of people who are joining us and the diversity and the interests and just the the wealth of background and these are smart people, and I'm just so excited to engage them and learn of the wealth that they'll be able to bring to our club. And again, John Adams, great job. You always do a wonderful interview. Always do a wonderful interview. Well, we're going to take a week for the Thanksgiving holiday and enjoy our families. And so our next meeting will be on Wednesday, December 2nd. Can it almost already be Christmas and the end of 2020? Oh my gosh, this is going to be a year for the record books. People that the foundation board will have its meeting immediately following this. And we're going to close today, as we always do, looking back in history. In 1865, Samuel L. Clemens published The Celebrated Jumping Frogs of Calaveras County under the pen name of Mark Twain in the New York Saturday Press. This was his first big break and the start of a lively and humorous career. In 1883, the US and Canada adopted a system of standard time zones. Who knows what was there before? And in 1928, the first successful sound synchronized animated cartoon premiered in New York. And it was Walt Disney's Steamboat Willie starring Mickey Mouse. And on that note, find a cartoon today and enjoy the progress that's been made in this medium. It's absolutely amazing what we can do these days. So have a great day, everyone. And we'll take a small break and then reconvene with Matt LaFountain and the Hudson Rotary Foundation. Thank you.